Overall, when we look at this partial full moon eclipse in Pisces, what we're looking at is how we're kind of energetically standing at the threshold of a new door. And we've got one foot in the old, having to purge the old story, let go of the old karma, wrap up a really old 16-year cycle, letting things go, especially our power imbalances in our relationships. And then, kind of busting the door open and putting our foot on the other side and saying, this is the direction I need to go in. This is the change that is coming for me. This is the change that I'm starting to see happening in my life, and it's supportive of who I am. It's aligning with my values. It brings more beauty and harmony in my life, and that's the direction I need to embody. And I need to take a look at the past, and it's important to take a look at the past at this time and what's ending. All the ways we may have been immature, influenced by our relationships, misled, buying into fantasy, escaping the action we needed to take, and take accountability for that. Forgive ourselves for that. Get a higher perspective on that and see how that whole experience served us, that old experience, what we learned from it, how we grew from it, how we transcended and evolved and transformed through that. How we developed as a person from that experience, what we got from it, and recognizing that everything we could get from that experience, we got, and now it's over. And so letting go of things, releasing things, letting yourself purge energetically at this time is an important part of ending that cycle. Hey guys, welcome to Realization Hub. My name is Michelle, and I'm an intuitive counselor, energy healer, channeler, and astrologer who loves to teach sensitive and awakened souls how to be in command of their energy, how to harness their intuition, and navigate their spiritual transformations with ease and empowerment. Today's video is all about the partial full moon eclipse in Pisces, which is coming up on September 17th. So let's get into it. All right, so first of all, eclipse season is kind of like this window where we kind of get out of our own way and allow ourselves to realign with the experiences that we're really meant to have on a soul level. And this is what gives us that experience of destiny. The reason why eclipse seasons are so potent is because the nodes of fate are in alignment with these moon cycles, making these new beginnings and these endings become more fated or more destined in some way. Now, this full moon partial eclipse will be in Pisces. The North Node will actually still be in Aries, and so this is a little bit of a transitional partial lunar eclipse. We still have the North Node in Aries, which means these kind of adjustments that are happening around this time have to do with our individual self, have to do with us embarking into some unknown territory, have to do with our individuality. Now, because the full moon is in Pisces, this allows us to tap into these energetics that are so much bigger than us, so much more expansive than us, so much more greater than us. Let's start with a broad scale. Pluto is going to be retrograding back into Capricorn at the 29th degree. Now, this is the last time Pluto is going back into Capricorn. After this retrograde is over, Pluto will come out of Capricorn and it will go back into Aquarius in mid-November. So this is wrapping up a very long 16-year cycle. Over these 3 months, we'll be revisiting this old cycle and really wrapping it up. Pluto being at the 29th degree is kind of like ending a really long story and closing the book. It's an ending. You probably saw it coming. It's probably a very natural ending that's coming in our lives in some way. It might be something that's kind of helping us release the residue of a very long 16-year cycle. But with an ending, whenever you finish a very long story, a very old story, there's likely to be a type of awkwardness that comes with that, or a type of grieving that might even come with that. Not necessarily because we liked the story, not because we want the story to continue, but because that story felt very familiar, and it feels weird and awkward to go back into life without that story following us. But having Pluto at the 29th degree means that we're done. We've received all the wisdom that we can get out of that experience. We've received all the knowledge that we can get through that experience. We've come to transcendence of that story in our lives in some way, and we can close that book and we can be done with it. And so this is definitely going to be a supportive release, but it could be a little detoxy as we're kind of releasing some energy from our space at this time. But again, this is a type of karmic release. This is the release of the old that we're finishing, the old stories, the never-ending story, you know, the things that aren't working for us, all of that kind of coming up and coming out around this full moon. The full moon will also be in sextile to Uranus. Uranus is going to be at the 27th degree, so it's also going to be in sextile with this moon and Neptune. And so, you know, there's this open door that we have, this horizon that's starting to emerge in our lives. There's this new direction that's really kind of waving at us in some way. And it's kind of like on a spiritual level, we get past this ball, you know, kind of like when you're on the field playing a game, you know, like soccer or basketball or football, and someone passes you the ball and you receive it, and it's up to you to start taking action. This is kind of the change that I sense around this full moon. It's kind of like spiritually you get this broader perspective on why some of the experiences happened in the past, what you really learned from it, what you got from it, why you had to go through those experiences. You know, the old stories that you were repeating, the things you had to release around those times, all the parts of you that had to die and all the parts of you that were reborn at that time. You know, it's kind of a death, you know, window in some ways, where we're looking at why things had to release from our lives, why we had to let that go, why we went through those experiences, why we transformed the way we transformed. And then we have another, you know, side of that, and that's the new. And that's kind of like, okay, that was preparing us and developing us for this new doorway that we are walking through, you know. And we go through this new doorway, and it's asking us to take action. It's asking us to change. It's asking us to do things differently, to embody our values, to be more practical and grounded, to be willing to build things slowly in a balanced way, to be more connected with our personal needs and choices that support ourselves as we go through this change. And so it's almost like spiritually we get handed the ball, you know, the ball's in our court, and there's that feeling of like, oh, it's up to me to make this change happen. The full moon is going to be conjunct Neptune. It's also going to be conjunct Saturn. And so there's this blend of energies here that are coming up to release. And this might be a full moon where we really need to mature and get real about some of the stories that we may have been telling ourselves, some of the fantasies, some of the ideologies, some of the ways where we may have tried to escape, some of the ways where we bought into beliefs that were delusional, some of the illusions that led us astray, and where we did that in a kind of a spiritually immature way, you know, where we led our lives in a spiritually immature way, where we led our lives with a lack of spiritual authority in some way. And this full moon is allowing us to release that, allowing us to look at, you know, where have we allowed power dynamics in our relationships? You know, we've got Lilith still conjuncting the South Node at this time. You know, we're still looking at those hidden power imbalances in our relationships that have possibly led us astray, have possibly influenced us in ways that didn't support our best interest, and where we have to let those go. And really come into our true nature, our true values, and really embody the change that supports us on an individual level. And so this could be a time where it's a type of maturing experience. It's a type of reality check. It's where we're addressing where we approached our dreams and our goals and our desires and our hopes, and our ideals in a way that maybe wasn't working for us, maybe wasn't realistic, maybe led to situations or relationships or experiences that felt karmic, or that felt painful, or that invoked fear in us, or whatever that might be. But this is a time to kind of have that clarity come through, have that clarity and let it go, and forgive ourselves for any of our own behavior in which we were accountable for things not working out, things going the wrong way, being misled, getting caught up in escapism, not really going after things in a realistic way, as well as forgiving others, forgiving others for ultimately where they misled us, where they may have, been acting in a way that enabled a type of delusion around the relationship, or illusion, and where we were caught up in the ideals of our relationships, and where we didn't really address things realistically. Forgiveness is kind of a theme showing up here, and it's not necessarily forgiveness to let the same things happen over and over again, but mostly the forgiveness that sets you free, the forgiveness that liberates you, the forgiveness that is not necessarily for other people, but for you, so that you can liberate yourself, trust yourself again, and start a new experience in a new way, coming from a new perspective that allows you to move forward in your life in a way that feels grounded, practical, balanced, steady, and embodying like all your values, all those things that are important to you, so that you experience that harmony in your life, so that you can enjoy life, so that you can enjoy the beauty of life. Mercury is going to be in Virgo, opposing Saturn, and so we actually might be thinking really hard around this time. Our thoughts might actually be a bit difficult. They could be difficult for a positive reason, but like difficult as in we're addressing things within us. Maybe we have to take some accountability for our own behavior and decisions and actions in the past, and maybe we have to hold other people accountable to their behavior and their decisions and their actions in the past. Or maybe we're just going through a grieving process for what we're letting go and what we're releasing and what's ending in our lives. Maybe we're dealing with some of our own thinking and where we haven't had discipline around that, and where it's led us to not taking action, where it's led us to being stagnant or not believing in ourselves, or not really going for what we truly want, And so we're going to be, in that growth, with that Saturn energy on a mental level, helping us to purge thoughts, purge beliefs, purge stories, that help us transform, that help us embody new change, that help us release that old story, that old cycle, so that we can prepare and get ready to walk through the door into that new experience. So the sun is going to be in Virgo, and Uranus is actually going to be trining the sun. So our purpose around this time is going to be getting this beautiful support. This is a beautiful, whatever new thing that we're preparing for, this door that we're getting ready to walk through into our lives, is going to be very supportive for our identity, for everything we've been through in the past, and what it's helped us, how it's helped us evolve, how it's helped us grow, how it's helped us develop and become someone new. It's very supportive of ourselves and our purpose. And it helps us get organized about that. Virgo is a sign that likes to, look at all the details, get really organized, get logical, create a system of some sort to really help things manifest and become real, purify our daily lives so that we can really create new routines, like new behaviors, new habits that support our health, that support what we're trying to manifest and bring into the world, that support this new experience and our purpose in this new experience. One of the more challenging things about this full moon is that Mars will be in Cancer. Mars doesn't express so well in Cancer. It can kind of be snappy and passive aggressive on an emotional level in Cancer. It can be kind of like this heated, emotional kind of energy, where we're really sensitive and where we might be kind of snappy around this time. And Mars in Cancer is actually going to be squaring the North Node and the South Node. And so that's a T-square, which means that there's going to be kind of a challenge or a growth period or some personal growth that we have to work through around, the part of us that needs to leave behind power imbalances in our relationships. The South Node will be in Libra, which is all about how we have balance and harmony in our relationships, and it's going to be conjuncting Lilith. Lilith is like a dark goddess energy that knows how to find the hidden, wounded parts of us, specifically those power imbalances in our relationships where things just haven't been fair in some way, things haven't been balanced in some way, and it's going to help us release that. Okay, so that's the most challenging part, is where we tend to go into these old patterns. We revisit these old patterns and we're kind of scratching our heads like, I just don't know how to deal with this old relationship pattern. It just keeps coming back. It's so old, and this is the full moon where we just say, we don't have to understand it. We can just let it go. We can just let it purge outside of us. We can just detox it. You don't have to understand your wounds. Oftentimes our wounds don't make any sense. There's no actual resolution for our wounds. We can keep cycling through our wounds over and over again, enlightening ourselves, getting new perspectives from a higher perspective of some kind. We can transcend those wounds. But at some point, in order to move on to a new story that exists outside of that wound, you have to integrate it, which means that part of you that was stuck in that story has to die. It has to release. And that's what this full moon is helping us do. It's helping us let those parts of us that are reliving these really old karmic stories in our lives, in our relationships, it's giving us that opportunity to just let it go. We don't have to understand it. We don't have to find a solution to it. We just have to let the energy go. We got to let the karma go. We got to let the energy go, and we got to move on. And that's one of the most challenging things, is actually embracing our individual needs that we need to work through our fears and move into unknown territory and be brave, and put ourselves first, and that's the challenging part of this full moon, is actually taking the emotional action, the spiritual action that we need to take in order to open up the space so that we can go into this new experience. So this could be a time where you're feeling kind of snappy, and you might be looking at the details of that. Like, I get really snappy because you don't pay attention to the laundry, or I get really snappy because you locked my keys in the car, or I get really snappy because of all these like little tiny things that happen in our lives. But this is a full moon where we're going to be getting more of a bird's eye view on that, where we grow up, where we mature spiritually, where we get bigger spiritually, and we look at all those small things and, they're not so scary anymore. Those people that used to snap and be passive aggressive and dominate you, like emotionally, like you start to grow up and be like, you know what, that's really small behavior and I'm not scared of it anymore, and I'm gonna let that go. I'm gonna, instead of getting caught up in the details and being scared and limiting myself and, letting all these power imbalances rule my life, I'm just gonna let it go. Like, that's actually, I've transcended it. I'm bigger than that. I'm done with it. And that's kind of the energy I feel with this Mars square happening with the nodes. Venus is going to be at home in Libra, so it's very comfortable there, and it's going to be opposing Chiron and Aries. So this is definitely us working through some relationship wounds at this time, releasing those power imbalances, where we got stuck in the details and where we can kind of grow up spiritually, see things from a more broader perspective, kind of get some insight into how we wrap up this really old karmic story, or this really old karmic cycle, or this really old karmic experience, and really let go of what we need to let go of so that we can walk through the door into a new experience. And this could also be one of those moments where you see things ending in your personal life, possibly relationships, situationships, circumstances, something that's been going on for a while, maybe something that you've seen coming, something natural, something that's gradually been dying in your world in some way. And this just might be one of those moments where you just close the book officially and it's over. What are your values now? Can you take a moment to pause and reconnect with yourself? You've gone through so much change, so much transformation, many deaths and rebirths. Who are you now? What kind of individual are you now? What are your values now? What brings you joy? What helps you relax? What helps bring beauty and harmony into your life? How can you align yourself into new experiences, in new relationships, new roles, new opportunities, new jobs, new experiences, new circumstances that align with those values? And how can you approach these new experiences in a slow, steady, balanced way, where you're not afraid to build something over time so that it is aligned with you, so that it reflects your values, so that it actually does bring more joy and harmony to your life rather than power imbalances and games and things that just haven't worked for you. Another thing you can reflect on is, how can you mature spiritually? Where have you let yourself get lost in fantasies? Where have you been buying into belief systems or philosophies that have been leading you astray, that have been misleading you, that have presented some kind of delusion or illusion in your life that actually isn't true? Where you can take a look at that and have a more broader perspective on it, have a more wholesome perspective on it, have a more realistic perspective on it, and have a perspective on it that helps you understand the experience, how it served you, and how you can create change and different emotional or spiritual behavior for your future. Intuitively, what I would recommend is taking a moment to become aware of and tune into, with your intuition, about this past 16-year cycle. Some of the last residual things coming up to the surface for you to release. How does that relate to the last 16 years? And can you tune in intuitively to your spiritual experience during the last 16 years, how it relates to what you're purging now, and some of the things that you gained from that experience, and why it's so important for you to let it go, and tune into what you got out of it, the transformation that you got out of it, and how it was preparing you and developing you for this new experience that you're about to go into. And at the same time, you can also tune into, with your intuition, into this new experience, kind of the sunrise in your life. What is What is it that you've been preparing for? What is it that you've been developing? What have you been purging for the sake of this new experience in your life? Can you tune into that new experience, but particularly tune into the action that is calling you, the embodied, practical, physical action that is calling you intuitively, emotionally, spiritually? What is the action that is starting to call, from within you to step into? And regardless of whether you take that action or not, it's a great time to intuitively pick up on the action or the direction that is calling you, or the new beginning that is calling you, and specifically how you may relate differently going forward into that experience on a personal level, how you might navigate that experience differently over time. Energetically speaking, this is going to be a moment of release. And so it could be kind of detoxy feeling when you have Pluto in sextile to this full moon eclipse in Pisces. And so making sure that you're grounded, making sure that you get time out in nature is one way to help this energy kind of release from your space so it doesn't build up, and so you don't feel like you're swimming in these kind of muddy waters at this time. One thing actually that I recommend is that you take a salt bath. If you're near an ocean, go ahead, jump in the ocean and go for a swim. Help the ocean or the water or your bathtub, a salt bath, help you detox at this time, because this could be a time where we're really letting a lot go energetically. We're wrapping up an old cycle. And so supporting yourself to release, drinking lots of water, taking a salt bath, relaxing, being really receptive to the spiritual communication at this time is going to be important. Now, when things are detoxy, sometimes we are not able to connect with ourselves or get clear clarity about anything. So if you feel like you're having trouble connecting to a new experience, a new change, something that's calling you on your horizon, don't even worry about it. What's important is to stay in the present moment and recognize that something is releasing. It's an important release. Be present with the release, let it go. Recognize whatever's coming up to the surface is meant to release and let go. It might be emotions, we might be crying, it could be negative thinking or, dark kind of thinking coming up to the surface at this time. Now's the time to take care of yourself, let it go, and recognize that when all of that stuff gets cleared out energetically, you'll naturally become more clear and clearer as that detox finishes. And then you will be able to have that clarity of some of the new changes coming in and what you've actually been preparing for. Just because things are happening energetically doesn't mean on a human level we're tapped into it. And if you're going through a detox around this time, it might be harder to tap into it. And so again, recognize that after the detox is over energetically, usually that's when you start to have those clarity moments and where you have that more of that opening and awareness of what's coming in and the direction that you're going in. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so that you are notified when I post new videos. I usually post new moon and full moon videos every single month, and I talk about the energetics of those so that you can be more prepared for your personal growth and transformation journey. If you are sensitive to energy, you often lose your balance and you have a hard time regaining your balance after interacting with other people, or maybe you're going through a type of self-healing journey or transformation and you feel destabilized and like you're losing your balance and having a hard time regaining your balance. I teach energy tools that help you manage your energy on a daily basis. And if you want to learn how to give yourself an energy healing on a daily basis so that you can hit the reset button, regain your balance, and actually function in the world, then I highly recommend that you sign up for my free class on Thursday, September 19th at 1 p.m. Hawaii time. This is a live class, so it's really fun if you can join me live. But if you cannot be there live, you can sign up anyways and you'll receive the recording. If you love the class, I have more classes that you can continue with, but otherwise, this is my free gift to you to help you out in your day-to-day life energetically. All right. Thank you so much. Take care, everyone. Bye.